Hello, how are you today? I hope you're all keeping well. It's that normal day of the week when, if we were at school, we would be doing some baking together. And recently the sun has been shining really brightly and very warmly. And when the sun is shining warmly, it does something to different fruits and vegetables. And it's what we call, it ripens them. So it might be that you have at home some bananas that are going a bit brown, and so they're really lovely and ripe, and they can go a very, very dark brown after this as well. And this is exactly what we need for what we're going to make today. It might be that you go, oh, I don't like to eat them when they're like that, they're too ripe. But in fact, the browner they are, the better for this recipe, because it means you're going to get a much better flavour. So I'm giving you a bit of an excuse. It's not a hello, are you there? Yes. Is Purdy around? She is around, yes. And Cashew is here today as well. Yes, and there might be a bit of drilling noise in a minute. That's because we've got to have some work just being done after that awful water leak. So don't worry if you hear a noise. Shall I put the phone down now? Is it a phone? No, it's a banana, isn't it? Silly Sandra. Anyway, we're going to start off with our recipe. And if we were at school, we would first of all do something with our hands. We would wash them to make sure they're lovely and clean. And I've already washed mine, so they're perfectly clean. And then we'd have our special scales that go tippy, 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 tippy. And they tell us whether we've got too much or too little. But they're at school, so I'm going to use my special scales here. And we're going to start off with, we're going to need a 1, 1, 5, so 115 grams of something called butter. Now I'm going to be making these dairy free, but you can use regular butter. And if you're using regular butter, then make sure it's at room temperature, otherwise it's a bit too hard. Now can I pour this out, children? I can't, can I? It's not a liquid at the moment. If I was to heat this up, it would become a liquid. It would go from a solid to a liquid, but at the moment it's a lovely solid, so I could put it above my head and nothing's going to happen. So we're looking, as I said, for 115 grams of what we call butter. You have to excuse me, children, if I come across a bit tired at times, because I am feeling very tired lately. But don't tell Annabelle. Shh. She doesn't know. So that's 115. I have to try not to yawn when I'm cooking with you, won't I? And all we're going to do, it's a really simple recipe. All we're going to do is we're going to put that into a mixing bowl. At school, we have a glass one. So I'm sorry that you can't see, but all we're going to do is pop it in there. Voila. Oh, there's a bit left. Silly me. Now to that, we're going to add, let's just get a tissue for my hands. Maybe they've got a little bit of butter on them. To that, we're going to add something that you might put on your cereal at home, which is normally white, and it grows in the fields as a cane, and it needs the sun and the rain to help it grow, and it's called sugar. But this is a very special sugar. It's called light Muscovado sugar. So it's got almost, it's light, it's called light because you get a dark one as well, but this one's a light brown. And do you know, it smells like, I'd say to you parkin, but you probably wouldn't know what that is. So if you at Halloween time have like gingery type breads or treacle or syrups, it's got that kind of lovely rich aromaty smell to it. So it's got a really deep, deep, luscious smell. It's very nice. So for the Muscovado, we're going to be looking for a 1, a 5 and a 0. So 150 of this lovely, it's very soft, it's not crystally like your sugar you might have on your breakfast cereal. It's much softer. Do you know, it actually looks like sand. But it doesn't smell like sand, and it doesn't taste like sand, and it's not gritty like sand. So it's not sand. And anyway, would you want to put sand in your cakes? No, that would be silly, wouldn't it? So it's definitely not sand, children, but it looks like sand. But we don't want sand, so don't think you can use sand and trick your mummies. That would be a bit silly, wouldn't it? You can tell when I'm tired because I ramble away. So we've got 150 of Muscovado sugar. I guess if you only had the dark one, it would just make it a much richer, deeper flavour. Or if you've only got Demerara sugar, it'll be fine. Don't worry too much. I haven't told you what I'm making, have I? We're going to be making banana and honey and pecan loaf. So I've given you a few clues there. Now to that, we've got our butter, we've got our sugar. Now we want our cakes to be light and fairy. So we don't want them heavy, we don't need them strong like we would have for bread. We don't want them plain as we would have for biscuits. So we want them light and airy. So we're going to be using self-raising flour. And you might think, why has Sandra got it in a bag? And that's because it's got a hole in the bag. So that was a bit silly, wasn't it? Otherwise I've been getting flour all on the floor, been making a terrible mess. But Birdie, she likes to it all up. So she clears it up and Nick doesn't even know. Anyway, we need 2 to 5 of airy fairy self-raising flour. So at school, guess what children? You could do the measuring of this and it wouldn't be a problem, would it? And just use your spooning techniques that we practiced when we were at school, where we have a spoon and some pasta and some bowls, and you do your special transferring skills, which you're all so brilliant at. Oh! I went over children, so I've got too much, so I need to take some away. So, guess what, kiddie? There's our 225 of self-raising flour, and it's going to go in the bowl with the sugar and the butter. Now, sometimes when we're making sponges, we mix the butter and the sugar together, don't we? We don't need to bother here. Now, this special little oval shape comes from a chicken, and we need 2 of these, and we can do our cluck, 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 cluck chicken. Lay a little egg for me. Cluck, 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 cluck chicken. I want one for my tea. I haven't had an egg since Easter, and now it's 3:30. Oh, cluck, 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 cluck chicken. Lay a little egg for me. So we're going to go tap, tap, tap. And out comes Mrs. White. There she goes. I don't know who laid this one. It might have been Alice or Matilda, because Hermione and Pippi are still being broody hens and refusing to lay eggs. But let's have a look, see if we can find Mr. Yolk. Mr. Yolk! Mr. Yolk! I can't jump! I haven't got a parachute! Help! Help! I can't live without you, Mrs. White! You can do it! You can do it! Yay! Did you clap if you believed in fairies? That always helps Mr. Yolk to do the jumping, doesn't it? Now, somewhere around here, children, is my little fork. There it is. And we'll just do a little beat. And we need 2 eggs. So that was number 1. And again, you can do your little beating. And guess what? We pour it in the bowl. Boom. And then in here, in my basket, in my little trug, is number 2. And we're going to go tap, 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 tap. Purdy normally comes and sees, but she's fast asleep, children. In fact, she's not been very well this week. Look, poor Purdy. Maybe she'll join us for a story later. So here we go, children. There goes Mrs. White. And we say, Mr. Yolk, Mr. Mr. You. Quick, clap if you believe in fairies, children. Clap, 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 clap. Yay! Oh, she wagged her tail. She did, children. She wagged her tail to say, I am here. I'm just not feeling too well. She was very sickly today. It wasn't very nice. So I think she's just eaten something which has made her tummy hurt. I don't know what though. So in here we've got butter, Muscovado sugar. It's a really strange word, that one, Muscovado. Self-raising flour, 1 egg, 2 eggs. In they go. No sign of any bananas yet, is there? Let's have a look. Oh, we haven't got this little one. And this is that special powder that we sometimes use that just helps the cakes a little bit more. And we just need 1 teaspoon. So if you are stirring a cup of tea, that size little spoon. And oh, let's try and get some more right at the bottom of the pot. There we go. 1 teaspoon. In it goes. Of that. And then, because I'm making mine dairy free, excuse me, I'm going to be using oat milk. Annabelle was saying something to me and I've got no idea what she's saying. Hello. So that was baking powder, children. Apparently I didn't tell you what it was. That's called baking powder. And you need 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Don't worry, I'll write up the recipe for you. So here we're going to have 2 tablespoons. Now you can use ordinary milk, but I'm going to be using oat milk. You could use coconut milk. That would go really nicely with bananas. So whatever milk you want to use. And then it goes, literally just 2 tablespoons of milk. And then we're going to, if we were at school, we'd use the electric whisker that goes round. I'm going to be using the big mixer. It's going to be a little bit noisy. So I'm literally just going to blast it on. And we'll pause the filming. And then we'll come back to it. Okay? Is that all right? Good. Okay, so we're going to put it on. And you'll be able to hear how loud it is for a second or 2. If you've got one of these, they have different attachments. And you want the one that looks a bit like a letter on it. Okay? So hopefully I've turned it on this time and we've got electricity going through. Let's have a listen. We have. Now that's a slow speed. And I'm going to make it go even faster, which means it goes a bit louder. So we're just going to let that whiz away and then we'll come back to it in a minute. Okay? Okay, so the mix has been mixing just literally for a couple of minutes, not very long at all. And the only reason I turned it off or stopped filming was because the noise would be too loud for you. So all we're going to do is remove that. Oops, I should have done that bit first. And then we can scrape off. You can see it's a lovely creamy mixture, but we don't want to lose all this bit, do we? So, hello, Purdy. Hello, darling. What we'll do is we'll just literally quickly scrape that off. And then we'll have those bits as well. Annabelle was like, please let me lick it. Save some for me. Shall I put it in the sink, children, so she can't lick the remnants? Shall I? Shall I be mean like that? Or shall I let her lick it later? What do you reckon? Let her lick it? Okay, we will. We wouldn't be able to if we were at school, would we? When you're at home, you can do those kind of things. We'll leave it upside down for Annabelle like that. And then she can lick it in a second. I'm just going to quickly give my hands a little wash. That was a good opportunity, children, if you have got a freestanding mixer, to be able to do some of your clearing up and put your things away during that time, which is what I quickly did, was I quickly tidied up. So there we have our special butter, sugar, flour, baking powder, all mixed together. And if you remember, I said we were going to make a banana loaf, but at the moment there's no bananas in there. So let's get those bananas that I spoke about being extra ripe. When you perhaps don't want to go to the fruit bar and you go, but Mummy, I don't want one, it's got spots on it. They're fine like that. What you're going to be looking for is a 200 grams, so 200 grams of peeled weight, because we're not going to be eating the banana skin. That would not be very nice, children. So we're literally going to peel your banana and weigh out the peeled, so when he hasn't got his jacket on. And those bits can go in my compost bin. You should think you've got a compost bin at home. It helps to make luscious soil. Oh, snap. Do you know that little bananas, when they grow together as a group, are called a hand of bananas? And in fact, you'd think they would all grow. I'll show you the next one. A certain way round. You might think that bananas grow that way round, but they don't. As a hand, they all grow upside down like that, and in fact it's actually a herb, and once it's had one crop they chop down the trunk of the banana tree, because they grow on a tree, and it's actually hollow inside. There's nothing inside the actual trunk of the tree. There you are, bit of knowledge for you. So here we are, we're nearly at 200. We don't really want the stringy bits, they wouldn't be so tasty. It can go over a little bit, don't worry about that, but you don't want to go over too much, because otherwise it'll be too moist and wet for your cake. So there we are, we're just 215, so not too much. I could break some off and eat it, but it wouldn't be very hygienic to do that while I'm filming with you. So we're going to break it up into little bits, because we don't want them in our mix like that. So a fun job for you, my lovely children, is if you get a fork and just literally squash them. You could use a potato masher. I like to use a fork. You just literally mash them. When I was a little girl, I used to love, hello Purdy, she's having a play. I used to love banana mash when I was little. And my mummy always knew when I wasn't feeling very well, because I would only want to eat banana mash. That's all I'd want to eat. So me mashing bananas always reminds me of one of my favourite foods. Banana mash. I used to have it in like a little drizzle of milk and a little bit of sugar. I think my mummy used to add the sugar just to give me some energy, so that when I wasn't feeling very well. But that's what it reminds me of. I wonder if there's any foods that you eat that remind you of things, perhaps of Christmas or picnics or trips to the park. We tend to think of ice cream when we go to the seaside, don't we? There we go, children. That didn't take very long, did it? And that's a nice job that you can do as well. It's just mashing the bananas. I'll show you what it looks like now. Now, one of the children that used to come to our school bought me this bowl, and it's written on there because she always called me Sandra Doe. And so it's Sandra Doe's Yummy Scrummy Treats, and it was my friend Darcy Bluebell bought me this, and I use it all the time. So in goes our, I'm going to use a spatula to scrape it out because I don't want to lose any. So try and do it so you can see, children. In goes our banana mash. And then the other thing we're going to add is a special nut. And you can use walnuts. I guess you could use, I wouldn't use almonds. I don't think I'd use almonds. But these, I don't know if you know what these are called. These are called pecans. And all I've done is I've used a special mixer, and we're going to have, so they've ground them all down to crumbly bits. Can you see that? And we've got 75 grams, so 75 grams of chopped pecans. You could use walnuts if you haven't got pecans or you don't like pecans. Once you're in there, you won't even taste them, children, really. And then we're going to get our tablespoon, and all you're going to do is stir the love in, because it's really important when you're doing any baking to always fold in the love. You don't want to go bashing it like this, because all that lovely air that helps the cake to rise would all get squashed back down. You'd be flattening it. So we don't want to squash that out. We want to keep it nice and light and airy. So all we're going to do is just very gently fold it in. Now the oven temperature you're going to need, children, is 165 if you've got a fan, or 180 if you haven't got a fan oven. Okay, so that's your temperatures. And then you're going to need a special tin. Now, I like to do my banana breads in what's called a loaf tin. That's that done. That didn't take very long either. Here's my loaf tin. It's a 2-pound loaf tin, so it's about 21 centimetres long, I don't know, 11 centimetres wide, and about 6 centimetres deep. And I've just literally lined it with some greaseproof paper. And can you remember what shape that is, children? If we have a look, it's got one long side, 2 long sides, a short side, and another short side. And it's a bit like a door. It's called a rectangle. So here's our 2-pound loaf tin. Let's make sure we've got none stuck. Sometimes my spoons, which were my grandmother's spoons, they're very old. Sometimes the mix gets stuck in there. But we're good to go today. So all we're going to do is pour that into our tin. See if I can not spill it everywhere, and do it so you can see, children. And I'm going to cook this in my oven for about 45 minutes, and then I'm going to check it and see how it is. And by checking it, I'm going to have a very special thin skewer that I'm going to put into the middle of the cake. And if that comes out nice and clean, it means the cake is ready. If it comes out gooey, put it in for another few minutes, because the last thing you want is a gooey middle, because that won't taste very nice. And also it means your cake might sink, which wouldn't be very nice either. After all that lovely mashing and spooning and weighing, you don't want your cake to go splat, do you? I wonder if any of you are going to be going away in a few weeks' time. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed out yet, so hopefully I might be able to see you maybe in August. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Perhaps meet up some of you in the park. Maybe we can have a little picnic or something. So I am missing you all so much. But there we go. Last bit. So don't worry, my fingers are clean, children. We'll leave that bit so Annabelle can lick the bowl, because I know she'll want to. And all I'm going to do is just level that off. Use my, I got rid of my tissue, never mind. Oops. Let me just quickly wipe my hands, children. Otherwise, that won't be very nice on the tape. So, when you go to the oven, ask your mummies or daddies or nannies and granddads, whoever it is looking after you, to do this bit, because ovens are hot, hot, hot. And the last thing I want is for you to burn yourself. But there is our banana, honey and pecan loaf. It's going to go in the oven for about 45 minutes. And then we'll check it and see how it's doing, okay? So in we go. Just into the centre of the oven, children. I'll lift those two up, you'll be able to see better. So just into the centre of the oven. We'll close the door nice and gently, don't bang it closed. And we'll go until Annabelle tells me that we're at number 45. She'll give me a special little wiggle, a special little kiss. Do you know what she did, children? She poked her tongue out at me. She went like a little lizard or a frog catching a fly. She's very, very cheeky. But now though, let's see if Purdy will come and say goodbye to you. Purdy, would you like to come and say goodbye to the children? You would? Come here then. Good girl. Oh, and Cashew's coming to say goodbye too. Come here, Cashew. You've both been very good for our baking today. And they both say, cheerio. I'll see you when the cake's done. Hello, so the pinger went and the cake, when I tested with a fine skewer, went in the middle. When it came out, it was lovely and clean. So that told me that the cake was ready. Because sometimes when we're working with fruit cakes, it can be a bit tricky to know when they're ready. And the cake, I then left in the tin for a couple of minutes and then took it out of the tin, and it's been cooling on a cooling rack. So now we're just going to make the honey little glacé topping. So what I've got is 25 grams of icing sugar, and I've not sieved it, but I've just squashed it down to take any lumps out. And to that, we're just going to add some local honey, and it's better if you can use clear honey, and we're going to use 2 teaspoons. Now this is a liquid, so it will just literally pour off the spoon straight on, and it's going to give it a really yummy, 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 yummy taste. So there's 1 teaspoon. Now hopefully we won't need to add any water to this, but I've got some just in case. So there we go. Let's start to bring it together. Nice and slowly. Bringing in, oh, can you hear Purdy? She's yap, yap, yapping in the background, isn't she? Chester's come in, he wants his tea. It's all go, children. I can't see what I'm doing. How are we doing there? Yeah, it's coming together. What I might do is just add a little drizzle. It's not going to need much, because as you can see, it's becoming a paste in there. So I'm just going to add a teeny, teeny, teeny bit. Not too much, because we don't want it too runny. Just a dribble like that. And we'll bring the rest of the icing sugar in. Can you see the difference? There we go. And then next is the fun bit, which you can do in whatever style you want. So there we are. That's all mixed in. And it's a nice thick, oozy. Love that word, oozy. Always reminds me of volcanoes oozing, the lava oozing. Anyway, so it's all nicely beaten together. No lumps, nice and thick. So what I'm going to do, ordinarily if I was keeping this cake, I would put it on a nice serving plate now, but I'm not keeping this cake. This is going to my friend. So, who would like a cake? All I'm going to, smells delicious, children. I wish you could smell it. We're literally just going to, I'm going to get close so I can see what I'm doing. Bring it back and forth, and it really doesn't matter how this looks at the end of the day. I'm going to go like a zigzag pattern, and it doesn't matter if it dribbles off the sides. See, I have lots of patience for bread and yeast. I don't have a lot of patience when it comes to decorating cakes. Unless it was a celebration cake, like Annabelle wanted a special novelty cake. In the past, I've made trains, Lola from Charlie and Lola, toadstools, all kinds. But then I do tend to have patience, but not for this type of thing. I'm rather impatient. So looking good, huh? See if we can get the last bits out. I'm going to fight Annabelle for the icing, particularly as it's got honey in it. I love honey. I'm like Winnie the Pooh because he likes honey too. Get the last bit. And then my friend's going to think I've made a white mash of this, but she knows I'm feeling tired today and she's just going to be grateful for a cake, I'm sure. What we're going to do, make it a little bit nicer, is just squash and the icing will act as glue for the pecans. Do you remember these? We had the pecans, but we had them all chopped up inside, didn't we? There we are. I'm sure when Nick goes delivering this, he can say, sorry, it's a bit of a squashy mess, but I don't think she's going to mind because it's not what it looks like, it's what it tastes like. So there you are, children. One banana, pecan and honey loaf. I hope you have fun. I hope you have fun making this, children. And for now, cheerio.